Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about the gray color families in Copics. So in Copic markers, there are four different gray families. The first one is cool gray, and then there's neutral gray, toner gray, and warm gray. And the way that they differ is that they kind of go on a continuum from warm to cool, with the warm markers having kind of a brown tint and the cool markers at the other end of the spectrum having more of a blue black tint, or what you would think of as, I guess, a true gray tint. So why do you need gray markers? Well, if you want to color anything gray, of course you'll need gray, but also if you want to be able to color in images that are black or white and not have them appear flat, you'll need gray as well. So I thought the best way to learn about the four color families is to just show you what each of them look like by coloring the same image. And here we're going to color a koala. This is from the I Love Eucalyptus stamp set by Lawn Fawn that was released in December 2018. And for all of our koalas, we're going to use the 1, 3, 5, and 7 markers from each of the four families. And here I'm just starting off with my cool grays. So this is going to be the coolest gray in the Copic family. This gray is going to be like a bluish black. And I'm just coloring in his little ears because to complete the image, we just needed to make sure that we colored those in. And I am putting in the shading now with a C5. And the C5 is the darkest color that we're going to use here. If you remember from my first Copics 101 class, I think I explained that the way Copic markers work is that the lowest number is going to have the lightest shade of that particular color. So a C1 is going to be lighter than a C3 is going to be lighter than a C5. And what I found is with the grays, to start off, you can really just start off with 4 different markers in each color family. I would start with C1, C3, C5, and C7, which are the colors I'm showing you here. And you can use those few markers to get a variety of light and dark tones. Here we're gonna go probably on the lower end of what those 4 markers are capable of. So this is going to be an image that's going to be somewhat light. And I'm just going to kind of finish him in, add some more shading along his little legs, his back, his ears. And we're almost done with our cool gray version of the koala bear. So one interesting thing I'll just note while we're watching this coloring is that Copic has 358 different markers. And if you're unsure where to start, you can look at my introductory video on a beginner's guide to building a collection, a Copic collection, or you can just buy the Copic set. So there are 4 different Copic sets that have 72 markers each. There are set A, B, C, and D. And set A, in terms of the gray markers, it has 10 markers, and it's a combination between cool and warm. So I think there's C1, C3, C5, C7, and C9 in set A, and then W1, W3, W5, W7, and W9 in set A. So that, I think, is, if you want to get started with grays and you don't want to buy the markers individually, I think set A is a good place to start. Okay, so now we are coloring in our second koala with neutral grays. And neutral grays are going to be on the continuum. They're going to be kind of, I think, right at the midpoint between our cool and warm markers. So it's a little bit less blue-black than the cool gray, but it is definitely not as brown as we're going to see with the warm grays. which is the fourth koala we're going to color in. So what I would recommend when you're starting would be to buy the cool gray markers first, the warm gray markers second, and if you think you can only afford one, or if you're not really sure how into this whole Copic thing you are, then maybe you could play it safe and just get the neutrals. But I think for the best art, I would recommend getting the warm grays and the cool grays. Okay, so now we are going to move on to our warm gray version of the koala, and as you see, he is going to be the brownest of the three shades that we have used so far. And I'm going to use those same W1, W3, W5, and W7 to color him in, just like with the others. So the same level of brightness, just a different color tone. I'm just drawing in his little chin. And another thing to note when you're building your gray collection, I don't think that you need to get all of the colors in a certain family. So for example, the W gray family goes from W00 all the way to W10. I don't think you need all 12 of those markers. I think that, a perfect W collection would be W0, W1, W3, W5, W7, and if you like to do a lot of black, I would go up to W9. So the trick to buying Copics is you want to stagger them somewhat, so you don't want to get colors that are right next to each other. W1 and W2 would probably be too close to each other to really notice the difference, so that's why it's best to go from a W1 to a W3 to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. So turning our attention back to our little koala, as you can see, he is really brown when compared with the other two koalas we've made so far. So he is very, very different looking, right, from the cool gray version in the top left-hand corner. It's, if you were to look at both of them and try to figure out what colors were used, you would probably think that the koala on the bottom was done with some browns, because that's how different the two gray tones are. But both of them, nevertheless, are gray. They're just a cool version and a warm version. And finally, we're going to color in our last koala with the toner grays. So toner grays, these are really, I think, not necessary. If you were to buy them in the sets, in the Copic sets, you'll find them in set C. There's 24 gray markers in set C, and set C includes basically all of the toner markers from T0 all the way to T10. If you love gray, if you love doing black and white type drawings, then maybe at some point down the line you might get toner gray, but what I found is it's just really, really too close to the warm gray to justify it. One thing it is good for, if you do a lot of metal, then the toner gray, I think, is the best of the grays to kind of give that metal shiny look to it. So if that's the kind of stuff you're into, then maybe toner gray would be one of the grays that would work best for you. But otherwise, I just feel like it's not really necessary. And on the continuum of where it fits in between the warm gray at one end of the spectrum and the cool gray at the other, it's somewhere in between, but I think closer to the warm gray. It's kind of like a jacked up warm gray. That's how I think about it. So here are our 4 little koalas. These are the 4 different color tones that you can get with the Copic grays. In the lower left-hand corner, we have our warm gray tones, which is the brownest shade of the 4 grays in the Copic collection. Next in the continuum, we have our toner grays, and then our neutral gray, which is the midpoint between warm and cool, and then finally cool, which is going to be the bluest, blackest gray tone in the Copic family. So I hope this video was useful and interesting to you. I hope that this will help you to figure out which of the Copic grays will work best in your collection given your own personal style and preferences. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you. And in the meantime, enjoy your Copics, everyone, and have a great day, and I will see you again in the next video.